The sky above the frozen moon Runo was quiet and heavy. Thick clouds moved slowly, covering the pale light of distant stars. A storm had started earlier in the evening. Snow kept falling, making the land outside look like an endless white desert. The wind pushed against the walls of the small power station, filling the night with a low and steady roar. Inside the station, Aaron sat at a metal table. A warm cup of tea rested near his hand. The heating system worked well, keeping the place safe from the deadly cold outside. The power station was not large. It had a control room, a living area, and a small workshop. Aaron had lived here alone for 7 months. His job was simple but important. He had to keep the power flowing to the human colony far to the south. Every light in that colony depended on the power station on this frozen land. Aaron was a calm man. He liked silence. He liked to read old books during the long nights. He liked to look out the big window of the living room. It faced the open ice plains. Sometimes he saw nothing but snow. Sometimes he saw a far light from a passing cargo rover. Most nights there was nothing to see at all. Tonight felt different. The storm was stronger than usual. The snow covered the window so fast that Aaron had to keep the heat strip on to stop it from freezing completely. The wind made the walls shake softly. The air outside was colder than any night before. Aaron checked the external sensors twice. He wanted to be sure the structure was safe. Everything seemed normal. He leaned back in his chair and stared at the window. He could not see much through the moving snow. It's only a faint white blur. He sighed and took a slow sip of his tea. The station felt smaller on storm nights. The silence of deep space pressed against the walls. Aaron had learned to live with it. He had no one to talk to except the occasional radio message from the colony. Most of the time, it was just him and the machines. A sudden sound made him sit up straight. It was light, like the sound of something touching glass. At first he thought it was ice cracking on the window. Then it came again. A soft, careful tapping. He turned toward the sound. The main window of the living area was covered with frost, but something was moving on the surface. He walked slowly to get a better look. The tapping came again, not random. A steady rhythm. Arian felt the hair on the back of his neck stand. There should be no one outside. The storm was too strong for any human to survive without shelter. He turned on the external camera feed, but the image showed only snow.
The camera
could not see through the white curtain of the storm. The tapping grew a little louder. Aaron stepped closer to the glass. He saw something new. The frost on the inside of the window began to thin. Lines appeared on the surface, long and straight, made by a hand from outside. Someone was writing. Slowly, carefully, the letters formed one by one. Lenumbed, Aaron stopped breathing for a moment. The words were clear. "Let me in." The letters glowed faintly from the light of the room. Human hand could have written them, but who would be out there? No one had visited the station in weeks. No shuttle was due to arrive for another month. He looked again at the external sensors. No signal, no heat, no life signs. He took a step back. A part of him wanted to believe this was just the wind or some trick of the storm. But the letters were too perfect, too careful. Someone or something was trying to talk to him. The tapping ended. A shadow formed behind the frosted glass. A hand pressed against it from outside. It was pale and thin. Aaron could see the shape of fingers spread wide. A face slowly came into view behind the ice. It was a young woman. She was standing outside the station without any kind of suit or helmet. Her hair hung loose around her shoulders. Her eyes were silver and calm. Snow fell around her, but none of it stuck to her clothes or skin. Aaron froze where he stood. The storm was dangerous. No normal person could survive even 5 minutes out there without protection. And she stood in the snow as if it was nothing. She did not shake. She did not show any sign of pain. She looked straight at him with steady eyes. He checked the thermal scanner again. There was no heat reading. The machine could not detect her. It was as if she was not there, but she was. Then her face was right in front of him, separated only by the thick glass. Aaron's hand trembled slightly. He reached out and placed his palm on the inside of the window. Slowly, she lifted her own hand and matched it on the other side. Her skin looked smooth, almost too perfect. Her lips moved. He could not hear her through the storm and the glass, but he could read her mouth. Please, the wind outside howled louder. The structure creaked. The temperature warning light on the control panel flashed yellow. The storm was getting worse. Aaron knew that opening the airlock during a storm could put the whole station at risk. He also knew that letting an unknown figure in could be dangerous. Yet something about the way she stood made him hesitate. She was not banging on the door. She was not trying to break in. She was simply asking. He stepped back and grabbed his radio. He called the colony control. Static filled the line. The storm was strong enough to block all long-range signals. He was alone. He had to decide for himself. He turned on the security monitor that showed the outside view of the airlock. The camera caught a faint shape standing in the snow. The woman had turned her head toward the door, as if she knew he was watching. She did not move closer. She simply waited. Aaron took a deep breath. He walked back to the window. Her hand was still there. Her silver eyes never left his face. She looked cold, but calm. Her expression carried no fear, only patience. He whispered to himself, "This cannot be real," but everything he saw told him it was. The storm outside grew louder. The lights inside the station flickered once, then returned to normal. Aaron knew that if the wind increased further, the power line to the colony could be damaged. He needed to make sure the station stayed stable. At the same time, he could not ignore what stood outside. He felt a strange pull, a mix of fear and curiosity. He walked toward the control panel near the airlock. His finger hovered over the manual override. The system flashed a red warning. External temperature too low. Unknown life form detected. Do not open. He stared at the warning. Then he looked at the figure outside again. She had lowered her hand but was still standing in the same place. Aaron felt his heartbeat quicken. He remembered stories told by other engineers. Strange lights seen in the night. Figures moving across the ice. Most had dismissed them as tricks of the storm. Yet here it was, clear and real. A figure who wrote words on his window asking to come in. For a moment, the power in the station dimmed. He heard the hum of the generator shift. Something was affecting the energy flow. He turned his eyes back to the window. Her hand was raised again. A soft light seemed to shine from her palm. It was faint, like a reflection of the moonlight, but steady. The frost around her hand melted into clear glass. She pressed her palm to the window again. Aaron stepped forward and slowly matched her hand with his. A quiet peace filled the room, strange but warm. He felt as if the storm outside had grown distant. Then she mouthed another word. Helped out Aaron stepped back and took a slow breath. He knew this night was no longer just a cold storm. It was the beginning of something unknown. Outside, a mysterious woman stood in the freezing snow without fear. Inside, a man alone had to choose whether to trust what he saw or follow the rules that kept him safe. The storm screamed across the land. Galindo stood between two different worlds. Aaron's hand rested on the airlock controls. He did not know what she was or how she had survived the cold, but her eyes held something that was not empty. It felt like a voice calling across the frozen dark. The storm outside grew louder through the night. The power station shook softly as the wind moved across its outer shell. Aaron stood near the airlock control panel. His hands were tight at his sides. He had spent months living alone on this frozen moon, and nothing strange had ever happened before this night. Now, a mysterious woman was standing outside in a storm that could freeze any human in minutes. She had written clear words on the window and had looked at him, as if she already knew him. The red warning lights on the airlock flashed across the control room. They kept reminding him of the danger. External temperature was dropping fast. The system advised that no human should step outside. Aaron was not planning to leave, but the warning made his choice harder. Opening the door for someone who should not be able to survive the storm sounded like a risk that could cost him the entire station. The woman remained outside. She was standing straight and calm. Her hair moved a little in the wind, but her body did not shake. Snowflakes fell around her, but they did not stay on her. Aaron watched her through the security camera feed. She was like a silent figure carved out of the storm. Her silver eyes were steady and fixed on the airlock door. Aaron moved to the control panel again. He checked the sensor readings one more time. The scanner still showed no heat. There was no life sign. The sensors were designed to detect even the smallest sign of a living being. If she was human, the system would have picked up her presence by now. Yet it showed nothing at all. It was like she did not exist, and yet he could see her with his own eyes. A sudden beep came from the power core console. Aaron turned his head quickly. The power readings had changed. There was a small increase in output, even though nothing had been activated. The generator produced more energy than usual. This had never happened before. Aaron checked the system twice. All readings came back normal, but the power level stayed high. He looked back at the window. The woman was still standing there. A soft light glimmered around her, faint but visible. Aaron felt something he had not felt in a long time. Curiosity mixed with fear. He had seen storms, power failures, and long silent nights. But he had never seen anything like this. He had two choices. One was to stay inside and keep the door locked. The other was to open the airlock and face whatever she was. He stared at the red flashing lights. Then he turned the handle halfway. The warning alarm gave a long beep but did not fully trigger. Aaron did not open the door yet. He walked to the window again. The woman lifted her hands slowly. Her movements were smooth, almost too smooth. She pressed her palm against the frosted glass. Aaron raised his hand too. His palm met the cold glass inside. Their hands faced each other through the thin layer of clear ice. Her silver eyes stayed on his face. She did not speak. She did not shout. She simply waited for him to choose. Aaron felt a strange calm filled the room. The howling wind outside no longer sounded so sharp. His breathing slowed down. The air in the room felt heavy but warm. Her presence made the storm feel distant. He whispered to himself, asking what she wanted. He knew she could not hear him, but speaking made the silence easier to bear. Suddenly the lights in the station dimmed again. A soft pulse of energy spread through the walls like a wave. All the machines hummed for a brief second. The temperature inside dropped slightly. The woman's light grew a little brighter as the machines pulsed. Aaron understood that she was connected to the energy somehow. The power levels responded to her without any direct command. He turned and walked back to the airlock controls. His finger hovered over the manual override. His training told him not to open the door, but his instincts told him something else. He had lived in silence for too long. This was no simple storm. Something greater had come to his door. Aaron pressed a small button that activated the outer microphone. His voice carried through the storm. "Who are you?" His voice cracked slightly. It had been months since he last spoke to someone face to face. The woman tilted her head. Her eyes softened. Her lips moved. The sound of the storm drowned her words, but he could see them clearly. Lyra. She had spoken her name. A single word, calm and clear. Lyra did not try to force her way inside. She did not move closer. She stayed still and waited. Her patience made Aaron's chest tighten. It was not the behavior of something violent. It felt more like she was asking for trust. The power alarm rang once more. The extra energy continued to build inside the system. Aaron knew that if it reached a certain level, the emergency systems would activate and shut down everything. That would cut power to the colony far to the south. He could not allow that. He had to act before the systems overloaded. He turned the handle all the way down. The alarm sounded loudly. The airlock door slid open slowly, letting the freezing wind enter the outer chamber. The storm roared through the gap. Lyra took one soft step forward. Snow followed her feet but melted on the floor. Her clothes were thin, like silk, but she did not seem cold. Aaron stared at her face. She looked young, but something in her eyes felt older than any human he had ever met. The inner door remained closed as the outer door locked behind her. Lyra stood in the airlock chamber, silent and still. The storm pushed against the outer door, but it held strong. Aaron moved to the scanner screen. Still no heat reading, still no life sign. But she was standing right there. She lifted her hand and pressed it against the inner glass. The sound was gentle, almost like the earlier tapping. Aaron looked into her silver eyes. He felt as if they were asking him a question without words. His heartbeat grew louder in his chest. He knew that letting her inside would change everything. He could no longer pretend this was only a storm. He placed his hand on the inner door panel. One press and the door would slide open. He hesitated. Then he remembered the words she had written on his window. "Let me in," she had asked, not forced. That gave him a reason to trust her. He pressed the button. The door opened with a soft hiss. Warm air from the living area rushed into the chamber. Lyra stepped inside without making a sound. Her feet left no prints on the floor. The wind behind her died down as the door closed. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Aaron stood near the control panel. Lyra stood near the entrance. The storm outside continued to roar, but the station was silent. She slowly looked around as if she had been here before. Her eyes moved across the walls, the screens, and the lights with quiet understanding. Aaron spoke again, his voice careful. "What are you?" Lyra turned her head toward him. Her expression was calm. She placed her hand on her chest and spoke softly. "I am Lyra." Her voice was clear now. It carried a strange echo, not loud, but smooth. Aaron felt a chill travel down his spine. Her words were soft, yet they filled the room completely. "You should be dead out there," Aaron said. Lyra tilted her head again. "I cannot die from the cold," she replied. Her voice carried no pride and no fear. She spoke as if stating a simple fact. Aaron stared at her, unsure how to respond. Every rule he knew about survival on this moon had just been broken by the woman standing in front of him. He had no idea what she was or why she had come, but she looked more human than anything else. Lyra looked at the power console. "The storm is not the only thing here," she said. "Something old is waking up." Her words sent a heavy feeling through the room. Aaron did not know what she meant, but the energy surge inside the system suddenly made more sense. Whatever she was, she knew something he did not. He followed her gaze to the power core. The soft hum of the generator grew louder again. Lights on the panel flickered. Lyra took a small step forward. She placed her hand gently on the wall near the power line. Her eyes closed. The lights across the room stopped flickering. The readings on the console steadied, as if the storm had no power over them anymore. Aaron watched her with wide eyes. He had spent years learning how to control this system, yet she had stabilized it with one soft touch. It was something no human could do. She opened her eyes again and looked at him. "This place remembers me," she said. Aaron wanted to ask 100 questions at once, but he could not find the words. The night that had started like any other had turned into something far greater. A woman with silver eyes stood in his power station, claiming the place remembered her. The storm continued to roar outside. But inside the station, a strange calm filled the air. Aaron knew his life had changed the moment he opened the airlock. The silence between them was not empty. It carried the weight of something old, something powerful, and something waiting to be understood. And as the generator hummed softly in the background, Aaron realized that the storm outside was no longer his biggest problem. The stranger inside was... The storm outside grew stronger as the night went on. The wind pressed against the station like an endless wall. Snow moved across the glass windows like a white river. The power station had survived many storms before, but this one felt heavier. Aaron stood near the control console, watching the readings closely. Inside the warm station, the woman with silver eyes stood near the door. Her name was Lyra. She had walked into the airlock without a suit. She had survived the freezing cold. She had spoken his language as if she had known it all her life. The air inside the station was still. Aaron could hear the soft sound of the machines and the low hum of the generator. Lyra's footsteps made no sound on the floor. Her clothes looked clean and dry, even though she had stood in the storm for a long time. Her skin was smooth and pale. Her silver eyes moved across the room with slow care, as if she had returned to a place she once knew. Aaron stayed near the panel for a while, unsure of what to say. He had opened the door to a stranger who should not have survived. He had no clear idea what she was. He only knew that she had calmed the unstable power system with a single touch. That alone told him she was not like anyone he had ever met. Lyra finally spoke. Her voice was soft and clear. This place remembers, she said. Her words echoed slightly, not because of volume, but because of a strange, smooth tone in her speech. Aaron frowned. What do you mean? Lyra turned her gaze to the main generator core. Long ago, humans built this station. They made it with our help. I was part of the system. I kept the storm away. I gave them light and heat. When they left, I was sealed under the ice. Time did not break me. The signal you sent each day woke me. Aaron blinked. Her words were strange. She spoke as if she had always been here. But the history of the colony told a different story. This power station was built 50 years ago, long after the first settlement. No record ever mentioned anything like her. You were here before the colony? Aaron asked carefully. Yes, she answered. Your people forgot, but the machine did not forget me. It called me when the signal grew strong again. Aaron felt a chill. He had followed the daily routine of sending power signals to the colony. It was part of his work. He had never thought it could wake anything beneath the ice. Lyra stepped away from the door and walked slowly around the room. She moved like someone exploring an old home. She placed her hand on a metal wall. Her fingers brushed against it, as if she could feel something deeper inside. The lights flickered slightly when she touched the wall. Aaron noticed the power level on the console rise for a second before returning to normal. You are connected to the power, he said. Lyra turned to him with calm eyes. I am part of it. The system and I are one. I was made to protect and to support. I do not harm. Her voice was steady. She spoke with the confidence of someone who had no reason to lie. Aaron still felt unsure, but the station had grown more stable since she entered. Before that, the readings had shown signs of overload. Now the storm outside no longer affected the system. It was as if her presence had shielded the entire structure. Aaron decided to ask a question that had been sitting at the back of his mind. Since the moment he saw her, how did you survive out there? It was minus 100 degrees. No one can live in that. Lyra's silver eyes seemed to shine softly as she spoke. I was never human. The cold does not harm me. I do not need air like you. I can walk through the storm because the storm does not see me as prey. It is part of me. Aaron felt a small shiver. Her voice carried no threat, but the idea that something could walk through such a storm without fear unsettled him. She was not lying. He had seen it with his own eyes. Lyra slowly walked toward the main console. Aaron stepped aside, unsure of what she would do. She placed her hand on the surface of the console. The screens flickered, and a soft blue light spread across the control panel. Symbols and readings he had never seen appeared on the display. Lyra's expression did not change. She seemed to understand everything. This place is damaged, she said. The ice above is heavy. The storm is stronger each year. The system is tired. Aaron nodded. He had sent many repair requests to the colony. They always said they would fix it later. Later never came. The storm made it difficult to send supplies. For years, the station had been forced to survive with minimal resources. You can read the system? Aaron asked. Yes, Lyra replied. I can repair some of it, but I need your help. The deeper parts of the system are locked by human code. You can open them. I can make them strong again. Her words carried weight. Aaron understood what she meant. If she could truly help repair the station, it would save not only him but the entire colony that depended on this power. But trusting her meant giving her access to everything. He hesitated. Why do you want to help? Lyra looked at him. Her silver eyes were steady, and her voice held a soft tone. I was created for this purpose. Humans built me to protect them. When they left, I waited. When you called, I answered. I do not want to see this place fall. Her words were simple, but they held something deep. She had waited for years in silence beneath the ice. And when the signal returned, she came. Aaron stepped closer to the console. If I open the locks, you will control the system. Lyra shook her head. No, I do not want control. I want to work with you. Human hands built the locks. Human hands must guide the change. Aaron stared at the screen. He thought about the long winters, the failing systems, the colony far away that depended on him. If the station fell, the colony would lose power, heat, and life support. Hundreds would suffer. Lyra took a small step back, giving him space. She did not push him. She waited. Aaron finally placed his hand on the screen. He typed his security code into the system. One by one, the locks opened. The display changed. Lyra placed her hand gently next to his. The soft blue light grew brighter, filling the room with a steady glow. The storm outside no longer shook the station as much. The power flow became smooth. The temperature inside rose slightly. For the first time in months, the generator stopped making the rough sound of strain. Lyra smiled faintly. It was a small, quiet smile. "The station remembers me," she said again. Aaron stood beside her, watching the readings. They were better than they had been in a long time. He still did not fully understand who or what she was. But she had done something no engineer could do. "Why did the humans leave you here?" Aaron asked after a long pause. Lyra's face grew still. "They feared what they created. Not because I was dangerous, but because they did not understand. They buried me under the ice and built new walls over the old ones. But the system never forgot. It waited for someone to call." Aaron lowered his eyes. He had grown up hearing about the colony's early struggles. Many stories were lost or changed over time. It was possible that what she said was true. She stepped away from the console and walked to the window. The storm outside still moved across the plains. She lifted her hand and placed it on the glass. The snow swirled around the window like a living thing. "The storm listens to me," she said quietly. "It is old, just like me. I was made to keep it calm. But when they locked me away, the storm grew wild. It forgot the touch of human hands." Aaron followed her gaze. The storm did seem less violent near the station. The snow moved in softer patterns around the structure. It was as if her presence changed the weather itself. "You can control the storm," Aaron said. "I can guide it," Lyra corrected him. "Control is not what I was made for. I was made to protect. If you let me stay, I can keep this place safe again." Her words made something stir inside Aaron. For the first time in months, he felt hope. He had worked alone for so long that he had stopped believing things could change. But now a stranger from the ice had walked into his station and brought power back to life. He turned to her. "You can stay," he said simply. Lyra looked at him. The soft light in her silver eyes grew warmer. She gave a small nod. "Then the storm will calm," she replied. Aaron returned to the console and checked the readings again. The systems were stable. The emergency signals were quiet. The station felt alive in a way it had not for years. Lyra sat down near the heater and closed her eyes for a short while. She looked peaceful, like someone who had finally come home. Aaron watched her with quiet wonder. He had no idea what would happen next, but he no longer felt alone in the storm. Outside, the snow slowed its wild dance. The wind softened. The frozen land around the station grew still. Inside, the quiet guests sat under the warm light, and for the first time, the storm was not the only presence in the night. The next morning, the storm had passed. The sun was a pale disk behind the thin clouds, casting soft light over the endless ice plains. Aaron had stayed awake most of the night, watching the monitors and making sure the station remained stable. Lyra had not spoken much. She had walked slowly through the corridors, touching walls and consoles, as if sensing the memory of the place. Aaron had followed her quietly, unsure what to say or how to act. By morning, he realized she had a purpose beyond simple presence. The station itself seemed to respond to her. Power flows stabilized. Minor malfunctions corrected themselves. And even the heating systems ran smoothly without manual adjustment. Aaron had spent years learning this station, and he knew that this level of stability was impossible without constant attention. Lyra was not human, but she had restored the station like no human engineer could. He finally spoke. "What exactly are you?" His voice was careful, not wanting to sound frightened, but needing the answer. Lyra turned to him, her silver eyes calm. "I am a guardian. I was made to protect the system, the station, and the people who once lived here." Humans created me to maintain the balance of energy, to ensure survival in harsh conditions. They left, and I waited. Now you called me back, Aaron frowned. You mean all these years you were sleeping under the ice? Yes, she said. The colony forgot about me. The storm grew wilder. The system weakened. I remained hidden until someone reached me again. You reached me. Aaron felt a mix of awe and fear. The station had been alone for decades, and now a being of unknown origin walked among his machines and corridors. She was not threatening, yet she radiated something powerful, something beyond human understanding. Lyra moved to the main control room, her steps quiet and precise. She looked over the main console, placing her hands lightly on the panels. Symbols and readings shifted under her touch. The generator hummed in response, more smoothly than Aaron had ever seen. This place remembers me, she said softly. I am part of it. It cannot operate without me. Aaron stepped closer, trying to understand what she meant. So the station, the power systems, even the storm. You are connected to all of it? Lyra nodded. The humans who built this place wanted survival. They built me as part of it. I am not human. I am the memory of human care given form. I am a guide for what was once lost. Aaron's mind struggled to accept it. He had grown up learning about human engineering and science. Everything she described went beyond his understanding. He looked at her carefully. Her pale skin, the silver eyes, the calm presence. She seemed alive, yet not in the way humans were. Why come now? He asked, why wake after all this time? The signal, she replied. Your work every day sent pulses through the system. The energy called me. I could feel it. When the signal reached me, I woke. Aaron turned to the console. He had done nothing unusual, just monitored the station as usual. Yet somehow, his simple daily routines had awakened a being who had waited for decades. What do you want from me? He asked cautiously. Lyra smiled faintly. I do not want anything from you. I want to work with you. Together we can restore this station fully. Together we can protect the colony again. I do not need humans to command me, but humans and I can achieve more together. Aaron nodded slowly. He had been alone for months. The weight of the station's survival pressed on him constantly. Now, a being who could stabilize everything was offering help. The thought was both exciting and frightening. She walked to a side console. Lights began to flicker as she touched them. Screens filled with unknown symbols and readings that Aaron had never seen. Some were old codes left by the humans who built the station. Others were patterns he could not recognize. The station seemed alive under her touch. You can read this? Aaron asked. Yes, Lyra said. I was made to understand. I was made to keep it safe. Humans left parts incomplete, and the storm grew stronger over time. I can restore balance. Aaron watched her carefully. The station's hum was steady now, almost like a heartbeat. Machines that had been silent for years now ran again. Even the heating system, which had been unreliable, worked flawlessly. The lights above them glowed warmly instead of flickering. You are not just a guest, Aaron said finally. You are part of this station. I am, she replied simply, and I will help you. The silence of the morning was deep. The wind outside had calmed. The snow moved slowly across the plains. Aaron realized that the presence of Lyra had changed the entire environment. The storm was still visible, but it no longer seemed dangerous. It was controlled, guided by her unseen influence. He stepped closer to her. If this is true, then why have humans never spoken of you? They forgot, Lyra said. They feared what they created. They did not understand. I was sealed away, and the system waited. Now, I have returned. Aaron felt a chill. Humans had built something they could not understand. Something that had waited for decades under ice, then answered his simple signal. The weight of history pressed on him. Can you do more than stabilize the station? He asked cautiously. Can you protect the colony? Lyra's eyes glowed softly. Yes, but I need your guidance. Humans built the locks for a reason. The station responds to human choices as well as mine. Together we can protect both. Aaron nodded slowly. He understood. She had power, but she needed collaboration. The combination of human insight and her abilities could save the colony from future storms. He led her to the main control panel. Together they started checking the systems. Lyra guided his hands to certain controls. She explained the history of circuits, the purpose of old machinery, and the patterns in energy flow. Aaron listened carefully, amazed at how easily she understood the station. As the day passed, the station hummed with life. Every system, every generator, every panel responded smoothly. Aaron could not remember the last time the station ran this perfectly. He realized that alone, he could never have achieved this. Lyra had brought life back to a place that had been silent for years. Finally, she stepped back. "It is stable now," she said. "The storm no longer threatens this station. The power flow is secure. The colony will receive what it needs." Aaron looked at her, feeling a strange respect. "You've done more than I ever could." "I don't understand how, but I trust you," Lyra smiled faintly. "I do not ask for trust blindly. I work for the survival of humans and the system. You have reached me, and together we have restored what was broken. That is enough." Aaron watched the pale light from the sun shining through the clouds. He felt a sense of awe and hope. The storm had awakened more than a being from the ice. It had awakened the possibility of survival beyond his imagination. Lyra walked to the window and looked outside. The frozen plains stretched endlessly. She raised her hand slightly. The snow near the station moved softly, guided by her influence. She turned to Aaron. "This is only the beginning. There is more to awaken. The colony is far, and there are other systems that need protection. We must be ready." Aaron nodded. He had been alone for months, isolated in the frozen lands. Now, with Lyra by his side, he felt a purpose beyond simple survival. He realized that the power station was no longer just a building of metal and circuits. It was a connection between humans and something older, something wise, something that had waited patiently under the ice. For the first time in years, Aaron felt excitement rather than fear. The storm had passed, but the awakening had just begun. The frozen moon of Runo was quiet now. The storm had passed entirely, leaving the plains covered in a thick layer of soft snow. Sunlight broke through the clouds in pale golden streaks, reflecting off the ice and casting gentle light into the power station. Aaron stood near the main window, watching the world outside. The cold no longer felt oppressive. Somehow, the station and the land beyond had shifted in tone, as if the storm had not only cleared the skies but also released a hidden calm. Lyra stood beside him, her silver eyes reflecting the light. She had spent the night stabilizing the systems, checking every generator, every circuit, and every power line. For hours, she had guided Aaron through the workings of the station, explaining parts he had never fully understood. Together, they had brought the station back to life. Aaron had worked alone for months, but never like this. With Lyra, he felt a rhythm, harmony that went beyond human comprehension. "Everything seems fine now," Aaron said, his voice calm, but carrying a trace of disbelief. "The station is stable, and the colony will get power on time." Lyra nodded. "Yes, the systems are restored, but the colony is far, and they will not know the source of this help. That is why we must prepare to guide them further. They need more than power. They need understanding." Aaron looked at her, curious. "Understanding? How can a station and a colony need understanding?" She smiled faintly. "Humans forget. They work and survive, but they forget the care and balance that allow survival to continue. I am here to remind them. I can guide, but humans must act. You are the one who reached me. Your hands opened the locks. Your mind followed the patterns. That is why this station runs now. The colony will see it in time, but someone must lead them to it." Aaron nodded slowly. He felt the weight of her words. For months, he had thought his job was simple: maintain the station, send power, and survive the isolation. Now, he realized that the station was a living memory of humans and of what they had created long ago. Lyra was its keeper, but he was part of the story too, Outside, the snow shifted gently. Lyra raised her hand. Soft patterns formed in the snow near the station, swirling and moving in perfect rhythm. It was almost like the land itself responded to her presence. Aaron watched, fascinated. "You can control the land too?" he asked quietly. "I do not control it," Lyra replied. "I guide it. Humans built the systems to work with me, not against me. When humans leave, systems falter. When humans act with me, the balance is restored. This land, the storms, the energy, they are all part of a larger whole." Aaron felt a sense of awe. He had walked these frozen plains many times. He had repaired machines, maintained circuits, and endured isolation. But he had never felt anything like this. The storm, the snow, the quiet plains, they were no longer lifeless. They had a pulse, a rhythm, a memory, and Lyra was its voice. She turned to him. "It is time to return to the colony. The systems beyond this station are weak. They need guidance. You will come with me." Alone hesitated. The colony was far, and the journey would be long and dangerous. But he knew that he could not stay behind. This was no longer about simple maintenance or survival. This was about connecting humans with something greater, something older, something that had waited patiently for them. "I will go," he said finally. "We will guide them together." Lyra's silver eyes glowed faintly. "Then we begin the journey." The preparations took hours. Aaron loaded supplies, checked communication devices, and ensured the rover was fully operational. Lyra moved silently, touching panels and controls that Aaron had never seen. The energy from the station seemed to flow through her. When she touched a console, lights stabilized and readings smoothed instantly. She did not speak much. Her presence alone was enough. When the rover was ready, they stepped outside. The sunlight reflected off the snow, making the ice sparkle like glass. Aaron noticed that the plains no longer felt endless or empty. They felt alive. The faint ripple of energy from Lyra guided the movement of the snow, the ice, and even the wind. The storm that had once been their enemy was now calm and gentle. They started the journey toward the southern colony. The rover moved smoothly across the frozen plains, powered by the restored station and guided by Lyra's influence. Aaron had driven these routes many times before, but now the landscape felt different. Every ridge, every snowdrift, every distant peak seemed aware of them, responding to their passage. Lyra sat beside him in the rover, calm and still. Her silver eyes scanned the horizon. Aaron stole glances at her, amazed at her presence. She was not human, but she was not alien in the sense of danger. She carried knowledge, purpose, and care. She had been waiting for humans to reconnect, and now she had found someone willing to join her. Hours passed. The sun began to lower in the sky. Shadows stretched across the ice plains, and the temperature dropped slightly, though not dangerously. Aaron noticed that the rover's sensors picked up faint energy fields that he could not explain. Lyra seemed aware of them, her hand resting lightly on the console. The readings stabilized instantly. Finally, the first signs of the southern colony appeared in the distance. Lights flickered in the early evening, tiny against the vast white landscape. Aaron's heart beat faster. The colony had depended on the power from the station for months, but no one knew the secret behind its stability tonight. Lyra spoke softly. "They will see the results soon. But first, we must connect directly to the colony systems. They are weak, and the storms have damaged some circuits. We will guide them, and they will understand." Aaron nodded and moved to the controls. Together, he and Lyra activated the connection to the colony's main power grid. Energy readings shifted, flowing smoothly through the lines. Lights in the colony flickered once, then glowed steadily. Machines that had been unstable worked perfectly. Systems hummed with life and warmth. The colony responded to their presence before they even arrived. Lyra's eyes glowed softly. "It is done," she said. "The colony is safe. Humans will continue their work, and they will learn to work with the systems once again." Aaron looked at her with admiration. "You have done more than I could ever imagine. You have saved not just this station, but hundreds of lives." She shook her head gently. I only guided them. Humans must always act. My purpose is to remind them and to support them, not to replace them. Together, humans and I can achieve what neither could do alone. As they approached the colony, Aaron noticed children playing near the edge of the settlement. Their laughter carried faintly across the snow. Families moved about, tending to lights, generators, and machines. For the first time, Aaron felt the weight of hope instead of isolation. The colony would survive, not by luck or chance, but by the cooperation between human hands and the presence of someone who had waited patiently to guide them. They reached the colony gates. Aaron stepped out of the rover, then helped Lyra onto solid ground. The snow crunched beneath their feet, soft but steady. The colonists stopped and stared. Lyra's presence was unlike anything they had ever seen. Yet there was no fear in their expressions, only curiosity. Aaron stepped forward and spoke to the gathering humans. This is Lyra. She has guided the station and restored the systems that we all depend on. She has come to help us reconnect with the work we must do. Together, we will survive the storms and protect this colony. The colonists looked at her with wonder. Lyra's silver eyes met theirs. She gave a small nod. Her calm presence seemed to spread through the crowd, filling them with quiet confidence. The children approached slowly, sensing her gentle energy, and she smiled faintly. For Aaron, the moment was unforgettable. He realized that the simple act of opening his door during a storm had changed everything. A stranger from the ice, a being older than memory, had walked into his life and awakened not only the station but also the hope of an entire colony. The sun finally broke through the clouds fully. Its pale light reflected off the snow and the buildings of the colony. It was a new day, a new beginning. The storm had passed, but the awakening it brought was only just beginning. Aaron looked at Lyra and smiled. Together, they had bridged two worlds, human and guardian, past and present, survival and hope. The colony would flourish. The station would thrive. And the bond between humans and the silent guardian of the ice would guide them into a future stronger than any storm could ever threaten. A new dawn had arrived, and with it, the promise of a brighter tomorrow for all.